It's showtime.
Good morning, Vietnam! Welcome to the party, pal!
See you at the party, Richter!
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
Get away from her, you bitch!
I'll be back.
I'll be back. You did not going to say that, did you?
What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
To do the binds.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Inconceivable!
Little Dallas multipass.
This is a tasty burger.
Please.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I'm the bad guy?
And Hulk, smash.
I can speak with an English accent.
Hit the hash pipe and join the National Guard. I could be elected president.
You went over my helmet?
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex? I know, right?
The list is in the open!
Hey, where are the white women at?
They're digging in the wrong place.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Are you not entertained?
Second start of the ride. And straight on till morning.
Meow.
You son of a bitch.
1.21 gigawatts!
Wax on, wax off.
Oh my goodness, I am sporting a tremendous Woody right now.
Bartender is the aristocrat of the working class.
You want to flip 6-3 play and you could score.
Cover me.
Dogs and cats living together, fastest terrier.
On this team, we fight for that itch.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
No ticket.
No ticket.
I get older, they stay the same age.
It's not what you know. It's what you can prove.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. He's 15.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Hope is a good thing. Maybe the best of things. And no good thing ever dies.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and always with me, my hetero life mate. Oh, my feelings. How are you, sir?
Man, you're quick.
Cutting it close. Cutting it close. My wife said that, but I didn't appreciate it. Anyway, what is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go watch a movie, watch it, come back to us, and we break it down for you. This week or this month, this fabulous February month, we are covering Robert Zemeckis movies. And essentially, we are covering movies that are less famous, right? I would say. The more famous ones we haven't yet covered. And I'm not sure.
Well, so far we've covered pretty much the lesser known, even though Contact was kind of big.
Yes, actually, yeah.
And and as we discussed last week, Romancing the Stone, for its time, did very well in a year that was chock full of just some of the biggest blockbusters ever.
Yeah, I think so. But like I said, it's let's say it was big, but you don't hear anybody talk about Romancing the Stone.
Yeah,
you hear more people talk about Death Becomes Her than Romancing the Stone or Contact, for that matter.
That's fair, yeah.
And all of that is to say that we've saved sort of the best for last because it's very well known.
I wouldn't say the best. I would say the most well known. Although it is my favorite of a trilogy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, audience.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's not that big of a secret. Anyway, so this week we actually are talking about Contact, a movie from 1997 that had sort of a question that was very prevalent, I would say politically at the time, but it had a very different approach because 1997, I have to remind everybody, late 90s, it was very big in terms of, if you talked about sci-fi, it was very big on UFOs in the government. X-Files was
one of the biggest shows on TV. X-Files was on Fridays, I think, and it wasn't actually a death knell slot at the time. Like they did major. Still had major ratings.
Yeah. I think for us, it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. And for some reason, it had sort of a reputation of being a horror show for some reason. So it's after 10 p.m. It was always on after 10 p.m.
Well,
if
to
I
be
remember
fair, there are
correctly.
a lot of episodes that revolve around the concept of sci-fi horror that are intrinsic in the X-Files.
Yeah, there's the one with the guy who was crawling through vents, and he was like asleep for 20 years and then comes back. It's
Yeah,
all
there
over the place.
are multiple episodes like that. But again, it in a way, X-Files did Monster of the Week in a completely different twist and had the
Yes.
adult turn where essentially at the time, because Buffy just started, I believe, around it was
Yeah,
in
but Buffy's
98.
more of a fantasy thing.
No, but the thing
But
is though, like Buffy was the kids version, and then X-Files was the adult version of the Monster of the Week kind of story.
oh, okay, I get it. The
Yeah.
monster of the week kind of thing. Okay, yeah, I get it. All right. Before we dive into everything all about Contact, we will welcome the Salty Nerd podcast viewers with the raid. We'll say hello to our admin in chief, Paul Harley. We say hello to Kaliki Oki, and we'll say hello to all of the lurkers coming in from the Salty Nerd podcast. Oh, here they are. One Punch Man.
There they are.
Juliet, good evening to you. Marsha Haas, welcome. Well, like I said, welcome to everybody on the Salty Nerd podcast that aren't necessarily watching this show weekly, but you're more than welcome to stick around and enjoy yourselves, because we start at the beginning. We start at a little segment we call Behind the Screens.
Sound production, take 2.
Corn Pop, you're right here with us. Right here with us. It says Reel McCoy podcast. All right, cool. Oh.
Yeah, but Paul, to be fair, Are You Afraid of the Dark was just Twilight Zone for kids. Was not the same kind of Monster of the Week, kind of an action adventure vibe with horror involved. So, yeah. Oh, we can get
no idea
all day long.
Anyway, Behind the Screens is where we turn to me and we get the lowdown on everything that is behind the scenes, production-wise, all of the stuff that is in and around this movie. And as per tradition, there are some notes that I have that are going to go into the movie itself, because it has like these interluding notes that if I remember to not say them now, we'll go in when we kind of
bring them up later.
cover
Yeah,
the movie.
that's fine.
All right. First and foremost, the movie was not written as a movie. It was actually written as a treatment for a movie by Carl Sagan and Anne Droyan, who were husband and wife. Carl Sagan is one of the most famous guys that dealt with the cosmos, astronomy, all that stuff. If you grew up knowing the series called Cosmos, it was presented by Carl Sagan. He was an enthusiast. I'm not sure of his entire career, but he made a lot of documentaries and that sort of thing. But I don't remember if he was actually trained or taught in that field at all. He was just very interested about it.
Oh, just as an aside, wait, a film that Tom hasn't watched in over 25 years? Wait. Are we going to mention something that Tom doesn't know for a change? What?
No. I'm telling you right now, he's like, I bet you he knows a thing or two about the movie. But,
yes.
Carl Sagan himself, he was like a prominent figure in the whole astronomy field, especially on TV. So he wrote a 100-page treatment, and after several roles, Warner Brothers picked it up, optioned it. He wrote it back in 1979, 80, depending on where you look, right around that time. But then, because of the Warner Brothers machine, they didn't do much with it. It kind of stalled in terms of production. It had a producer attached to it, but nothing really came up. No directors were hired. So Carl Sagan actually decided to make the treatment into a full-blown novel. And when he decided to do that, Simon and Schuster, the publishers, paid him $2 million before he even wrote one sentence in that novel. They just paid him in advance, and they said, just write the best novel you can have. And he did, and it was published in 1985, sold gangbusters. It made a whole bunch of money for Carl Sagan. And
I do believe it was his highest selling novel.
It is his highest selling novel / thing. I'm not sure how many fiction stuff he wrote, but he wrote a lot of stuff, not fiction. Sorry, my throat is still killing me, but for a different reason. So a few years go by, and in 1989, Warner Brothers actually got to a development cycle where they said, well, we want to develop this into a movie. We know the book did well, so there's a little bit of a backing to make it so a popularity. The popularity is there for us to put some money into it, and they started development cycle. The first director who was attached to the movie was a guy called Roland Joffe, and he started doing some stuff. He got a writer to write a script based on the book rather than having Carl Sagan write a script. They got a Hollywood writer, a guy by the name of James V. Hart. Sorry, I'm looking at the notes. I'll get to them. It's buried somewhere, but it's James Hart. And they kind of started pre-production, and in 1993, he had to drop out of this project for some reason. Couldn't find the reason. So here enters
another director that we covered is very important at a certain stage of production of this film.
Yes.
Mr. George Miller.
Oh yeah, that was the Mad Max director, George Miller, and also Babe, but we'll put that aside.
We don't talk about Babe.
So George Miller was tapped in, and he actually when he got involved, he got another writer to do a revision, to do a second draft of the thing. I want to get the name. So James V. Hart. I don't know why the V is very important, but it is there. The second guy who was tapped was a guy called Michael Goldberg. I've heard the name before. I'm very sorry. Didn't go into who he is, but he is a writer for hire, for all I know.
Yeah. Yes.
He did the second draft, and George Miller started making moves. First of all, he was the one who cast Jodie Foster for the role of Ellie Erway, or Dr. Ellie Erway, and he really wanted Ralph Fiennes to do Palmer Joss, the role of Palmer Joss.
To be fair, I think it would have been better.
I'm not so
even
sure.
though I think Matthew McConaughey was fine in the role. I still think that Ralph Fiennes would have been better.
And another very interesting thing is Miller was intended on casting Linda Hunt, who was the small actress, Shadot Mapes in Dune. She was the headmistress in the school of Kindergarten Cop, if you know that actress. Very petite, little small actress, very distinct voice as well. As the female president, because in the book, in the Carl Sagan book, in the novel, the president was a woman called Helen Lasker.
Correct.
So the adaptation would have been, closer to what the book is. But then there was dispute between George Miller and Warner Brothers and their production team from the studio side. It's Miller said there's something about the payment was off. The studio was like, he's very hard to work with. You know, the old Hollywood, we don't know what really happened, and it's probably the studio's fault. But the artist is insulted because somebody probably encroached on his artistic, influence or a direction that he wanted to go. Who knows? Because I've looked at 3 different places. One of them said money dispute. The other one said artistic dispute. And the third one said, well, George Miller is a very difficult man to work with, which it's either here nor there. So,
which it wouldn't be money for George, because George has never really been about contract negotiation issues. I could see the artistic vision with George, but not money. And it mostly had to probably come down to more of the fact that he wanted to do something that was probably going to cost too much. Then money came in.
He only was at the very beginning of post-production when he dropped out at 1995. So he wasn't it wasn't that far deep into the process. But when Zemeckis was pulled in, this is Zemeckis after, this is Zemeckis after Forrest Gump. In order for Warner Brothers to entice him to actually pick up the reins and run with it, they gave him full artistic control. And what's worse, they gave him final cut privileges. So whatever Tom is upset with at the end of the movie, that's Zemeckis.
Well, one of the major things has to be the CGI bit. We're gonna talk about that last CGI because, oh boy, it is some rough stuff.
Okay, we will. But before we do, we said Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey had to drop out of the leading role in The Jackal in order to pick up this role. So the leading role in The Jackal went to the guy from Pretty Woman, the Buddhist, American Gigolo. I forgot his name. He was in the news recently. Richard Gere. That's the guy. Which is weird because when Zemeckis went into starting up production, the working script was the Michael Goldberg script, which had a female president. Zemeckis wanted a male president. Not only that, he specifically wanted Sidney Poitier to be the president. Sidney Poitier refused and went to work in The Jackal as one of the agents. So I found that very funny. All right. So the shooting started in 1996, September 1996. First exteriors was in the VLA, the Very Large Array. That's super stupid in terms of captions that it made me laugh. In New Mexico, and apparently it was very difficult because it's a working station. It does radio telescoping and all that stuff, and works with the actual SETI program. And when they had the shots where the array was moving, they specifically moved it at the correct way where Vega is supposed to be in the night sky for real, because it's Zemeckis. And they had a lot of issues because when you're dealing with this, it's a federal facility, and they have strict timings on who is allowed to use what and where and point it at specific places in the sky.
Yes.
Mostly for research, not only for the SETI program. So it's a very difficult thing to juggle with basically a shoot schedule. But they were only there for about a week plus, so it wasn't that much of a problem. And the rest of the shoot was done on sound stages, which is, you don't notice it that much, really. Even the exterior shots with the machine, that's CGI. Most of the shots where you see people, it's one of them is outside in Cape Canaveral. They shot when the helicopter goes down and Dr. Arroway and her boss essentially go out of the chopper and go into the building.
Mm-hmm.
That's Cape Canaveral. So they had a few more dotted things around, but the bulk shoot was in a soundstage. And then they went to Puerto Rico for the actual radio telescope there. And that's about it. Most of it is interior shots, which is amazing. Visual effects. Visual effects had a collaboration of 8 different companies. Of them, Sony, Weta, Pixar, ILM, ImageWorks, and several other small little companies. And they had a lot of issues. A lot. That's why most of the CGI stuff seems a bit disjointed. That is why. Because one company was doing one thing, and the other company had a different vision doing another thing. So the face morphing was Pixar, specifically RenderMan, the company within a company called RenderMan. They did the face morphing.
Because the RenderMan was actually the first lead on Toy Story 2.
Yeah, exactly. Weta did the wormhole, where you see the wormhole, and immediately I was like, this is like SG-1 level.
It does look like 1998 internet
it looks
sci-fi.
like 1997 Stargate.
Yeah.
It had a lot of issues. I couldn't get any real information except for this company did this company did this, and I was like, yeah, this is why the CGI stuff is disjointed. I mean, it did bother me, but
That's a quick aside. Jillian, hope you're enjoying married life, and thank you so much for the.
Yeah, I'll mark that down. Jillian, and thank you very, very much for 5 gifted subscribers. That helps me out a lot. This helps this channel a lot. Thank you. Much appreciated. And yeah, I join with that congrats thing. All right. The score, yet again, Zemeckis tapped in Alan Silvestri. And the only interesting thing about the score that I could find is the fact that the full score, the hour 40 something, was published as is without some of the bits at the start. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Then we get to the fun bits. The fun bits is Jodie Foster had a real issue with acting in a blue screen room with everything CGI stuff. Kind of reminded me of the same complaints that Meryl Streep had with doing the CGI stuff for Death Becomes Her.
But apparently Jodie Foster is kind of a diva as well.
I don't know. What I found interesting was that Foster in real life is atheist / agnostic, basically an atheist, and McConaughey is maybe not devout Christian, but a Christian.
He's just kind of, it's whatever, man.
I'm not sure about that. He had a line that he was supposed to say about God being small, which was in the script, and he flatly refused. So much so that he actually fought with Androyan, who was on set, kind of helping Carl Sagan, basically, because he was very ill at the time. And they had a conversation, and after the conversation, Androyan kind of convinced Robert Zemeckis, he can let go of that line, because they were really strict with script control, apparently. Right. Another interesting, I've got a few stuff with CNN, but we'll save that when we kind of touch upon the movie. The Machine. The Machine was really interesting. The machine design was developed as a possible portray of the time machine used in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So the guy who made the machine and built a small little mock-up built it for James Cameron. And it was later kind of, oh, I've heard you've got this design for a wacky machine. And then they pulled it and made it into a part of this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, the middle part where it's glowing, that was supposed to be the time dilation, quickening, whatever you want to call it. One more thing. I've got a few more, but they're interesting woven into the stuff. Dr. Arroway, when she gets the information and talks about trying to convince other people in the room, namely Keats, which is James Woods' character, and the rest of the army guys there. She calls it an Encyclopedia Galactica. Now, that is a term that Carl Sagan took from Isaac Asimov.
Correct.
And Isaac Asimov has it in his favorite, or my favorite, book series called The Foundation. Mm-hmm. It's in there as a part of the Galactic Empire. They have the Encyclopedia Galactica, which got preserved in the Foundation. It's a very interesting story. Don't watch the Apple series. It's practically
terrible,
unwatchable. It looks great. It tells a decent story, but it has really nothing
to do
with the Foundation books or the series. It's kind of All right, cool. Awesome. Let's talk about the movie before we do the game, okay? It's a very interesting movie it's a sci-fi story. It's an adventure story, but it also poses a very important question.
It poses not only a theological discussion, but also just the discussion of what is the concept of humanity itself.
Yeah, but I want to be more specific. It pits two sides, which has been at odds since
they've been diametrically opposed.
Galilei.
Yes, yeah.
Which is science versus religion.
Yes.
And the one thing I did find interesting, and this is just looking at it through 2025 eyes after what we've gone through in the past 4 years, is how much sometimes religion, in terms of theology, and science are both sides of the same coin, because the science people are very religious about their dogma and how they do things. And it really becomes a religion versus religion kind of a thing, but they're both asking or trying to get to the ultimate question, which is why are we here? Now, we're not going to go deep into philosophical questions here.
No, we could have a very long philosophical debate.
But we could.
We don't.
But I found it very interesting looking at it through 2025 eyes. And I've managed to watch the movie twice, and I think that's one more than you did this week.
What's that?
Watching it. Watch the movie.
Twice. I got
You did?
able to get it twice. Which,
okay.
To be fair, you have to remember too, this is a 2 hour and 15-minute film, not including credits. It's a very, very long film.
I completely forgot. It's a long ass film.
And don't get me wrong, I love Carl Sagan, but oh my God, some of this bits, it's such it's a slog. Some of it could have been cut so easily, and it wouldn't have mattered at all.
Now, one thing I wanted to get to that point actually later on, but we'll touch upon that now. One of the things that I saw an interview with George Miller, and he said he has never seen the Robert Zemeckis version.
Cut, yeah.
But he said that his version would have been closer to Interstellar. Now I don't
see,
know
that would
how that kind of fits within this story. I have not read the book.
It would have worked with the Interstellar novel, not the film, but it would have worked a lot better. But also, what's interesting too is just bringing that up too. It was just so funny, the compass bit with how that played off with Interstellar later. Like, okay, That's good setup and payoff, and they didn't even know it.
Yeah, and the weird part is Matthew McConaughey is in
yep.
Interstellar.
Yep.
and the issue is there's a moment there where he talks to Ellie. I think at the very start. I don't remember where exactly, or was it in the Washington Monument bit? I don't remember. He talks to her about the Einstein. Yeah, it's when they're in Washington where he needs to decide if she goes or not.
Oh, yeah, because he mentioned the concept of light speed. Like, even though you'd be gone for when you come back,
yeah,
like 40
you
years
go back and forth and go through the speed of light because they didn't know how the machine works.
Yeah.
So they thought about the speed of light. So when you get back, no one you know is actually alive. So there's no one to care for. And he had a character in Interstellar that goes back and loses everyone he knows because when he gets there, he gets to see his daughter basically on her last moments. I found that very very karma-ish that it happened in these two different movies.
And also, if you actually, the commentary on Interstellar talks a lot about Contact and Carl Sagan
really
too. Yeah, which is
I haven't even seen.
Yeah, because if we ever get to it, we'll talk about it at length. But yeah, it's basically like it was set up to be kind of a almost a sequel in a way.
Yeah. Sort of, but not really. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll play our first game of the night. Just in a minute. All right. First game of the night. You know it. You love it. It's called Missing Marquee. You know, that's the first time ever that I haven't pulled it up in forever.
Huh.
I mean, it's all set up to go, but...
Did you notice already, too? You actually nailed the intro, and I didn't have to say a word.
I know. That's why I didn't say a word. Oh, I nailed it. I'm not going to say nothing.
So now he's going to fuck up everything else, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Missing Marquee, for those of you who are uninitiated in the chat, is where we have 10 posters of movies, have their text written off. We display them, and you guys out there in the chat, you guys, and of course, with the help of All My Feelings, will have to guess which movie this is, and I will share screen now for the very first time. Here we go. Chat participation is most welcome. Lag is turned down to the absolute minimum. It's about a 5 to 6 second delay between the two. So please, Corn Pop, I know you're a first timer. I know you're waiting for people to say something, but most of this show is mostly people just listening to us.
Paul's got it. And actually, John's got it correctly how it's actually spelled in the correct Stephen King version. Good job, John.
Good job. I love this movie. I need to rewatch it.
I hate this movie.
I know
so
people
much.
hate on
I hate this movie so bad.
I love this movie. It's on my list is so long. It's like, I love this movie. I want to do this movie. I want to do this movie. John has got it.
John's got it. Yes, Red Heat. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it last week.
I know.
Hey, Biffer. Biffer's back.
Juliet, don't worry about it. Just say the name.
No, you're fine.
No, it's not Hercules.
No.
Welcome back, Biffer. Spartacus it is. I am Spartacus.
Oh, I still haven't watched this movie, and you told me to watch it.
Yeah. It's really good. It's Jackie Chan playing off pocket. It's absolutely fantastic. It's not The Informer. It is not The Informer. No. The Informer is something else. It's, if you haven't watched this movie, I'm going to say the name in a bit. But if you haven't watched this movie, I think it's from 2016 or 17. Biffer's got it. It's called
Foreigner.
The Foreigner. I don't want to ruin even the start of it. It is really good. It is really good.
Oh boy. We have Johnny Depp and an absolute terrible human being.
Yeah. Which apparently every single time you see him in the movie, it's because his family demanded it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's got it.
Yeah, John's got it. It is Lone Ranger. Correct.
Oh, I now remember the name of this movie because I actually watched it the other day. It was, yeah.
You know what's crazy? It's another one of like Cameron Diaz's movies that you remember it for just the one scene in it that was
it's the Selma Blair scene, and that's it.
The Selma Blair scene. Now,
John, it's not Coyote Ugly.
Yeah, the other one is the Something About Mary, and the most famous scene is not the one with the gel. It's actually the one with the pants and the zipper.
Yes.
It is not Ugly Coyote. It is not Hi Ho Silver.
No.
It is definitely not Condoms for Gaza. Oh, my feelings.
No, Something About Mary, that was 98. It's The Sweetest Thing.
It is The Sweetest Thing.
Because Thomas Jane plays the love interest in that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Like one of the best horror films of all time here. Everybody should get this right off the bat. I mean, this is
Biffer's got it. It is
The Thing.
It's The Thing. And apparently it's a remake. I didn't know it was a remake.
Yes, it is.
I didn't know it was a remake.
Yeah.
I watched The Thing many times. I did not know it was a remake. Maybe because I'm not a horror buff.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is what? One of the best Westerns ever?
I would say so.
Probably.
They've got it all. Three of them have got it.
Unforgiven.
Yeah,
I
would say like the only one that I would say that I think is better is Tombstone. I really love Tombstone.
I mean modern Western. There's plenty of old Westerns that are really good.
Yeah, spaghetti Westerns. Yeah. Yeah, I have to say, I know it's absolutely fucking heresy as a horror fan. It says I did not like this movie.
A lot of people didn't like this movie. Why is it just such a heresy?
No, John's got
because
it.
it's Jordan. It's
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele.
Yeah,
I mean he's a hit and miss. I didn't like Get Out.
I like Get Out. I
know you like Get Out.
Yeah,
I didn't like Get Out. John's got it. It is Us.
Yes,
correct.
And I really did not like his new version of the Twilight Zone. It's bad. It's really bad.
Okay.
This was the come on, the Twinkies.
Shut up. Hey, John, we're not judging here. We are like me and All My Feelings. Like we disagree about pretty
much
movies.
everything.
Plenty of movies. It is
Zombieland,
of course. Yeah. Zombie Fest. Yeah.
The first one, yes. With Undead Bill Murray.
With Undead Bill Murray.
Well, with first dead, then undead, and at the end. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let's talk about the movie, shall we?
Shoot.
So, the movie starts with one of the most famous scenes in film history. Why? Because it is a continuing shot from Earth into basically infinity with no talk, no nothing. The only thing that you hear is the further you go away from Earth,
it's the radio signal.
It's the radio signal from different songs, and then it starts to be like interlude with different broadcasts. The farther away you go, you go into the past.
What's so interesting too is, just as an aside, it's so funny how this dates the movie so much, because of obviously the pop hits off of the bat was like it was Semi Charm Kind of Life was like the first bit that you hit was that first bit from Third Eye Blind, which is like, wow, yep, this was 1997.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. And then it's not Spice World, it's Wannabe.
Yeah.
Spice World came out. Spice World was like 1998 or 9. Don't get me
that came
started.
out that was coinciding with the movie, right?
With the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes further. It reaches like the Nixon "I'm not a crook" thing. And the last
it actually gets to the Pearl Harbor speech by FDR.
Yeah, and the last one you actually hear is the same speech from the Olympics that you later hear in the message. Which,
by the way, just as a side note, still one of the funniest fucking things ever.
What? That?
No, you have Mr. Hitler going like, by the way, no, this is the dawning of the new era of the Olympics, and how we're going to be so great, and a black dude from America just smokes them.
Smoke their ass. But that was the whole thing. And it's not and remember, the little guy with the mustache, right, was very jealous of American culture.
Yes,
he called Americans the Aryans. No joke, because there was a large German immigrant population through most of the Midwest.
Yep.
And Irish, but you know.
Well, that also people forget the fact that there were major immigration tariffs that were put on them actually bringing in any further Germans prior to any Irish people.
Yeah,
and
but
that's
a lot of like early 20th century politics of immigration in the States. Remember, Italians were considered black. I'm not going to say
yes,
the word,
they were. That's
very
true.
The black of
Europe,
the immigration system.
Yes, it was. America's history is really it's a rich tapestry of people just being awful.
Another thing that is very much alike with the Israeli immigration system.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. It's an even longer story. All right, cool. Younger country, longer story. Weird, huh? Anyway, Contact. It starts off with that scene.
You guys, you people finally got your own country, so you're just like, fuck it. We got a lot of atrocities to make up for now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't get me started. Like I said, now, I never thought this scene was anything special, but it's totally lifted off the book, and it's really into the vision of Carl Sagan.
Yep.
Very much of, like I said, if you've seen Cosmos, very much reminiscent of that show, that whole shot. And one of the small little companies that was working on special effects was in charge of this thing. And the guy who was the visual designer said that he loved working on this because he had access to a lot of Hubble telescope pictures in order to put them inside this entire shot.
Yep.
Which I found like, man, you can get, it's 1997. It's not like today where it's like there's a Google registry of stuff that you can get off the
you could just look it up.
Telescopes.
Speaking of that, we're going to talk about the email later because, oh boy.
Oh, stop it. It's a Unix email. So what we get introduced to is, and by the way, we're going to move forward in jumps here. The whole...
I do believe that, I forgot her name. Who plays
It's Jenna Malone.
Jenna Malone. She did a fantastic job at her age.
Yeah. And
excellent screen presence, excellent acting, no condemnation on her. And
she had to wear a blue eye contacts because her natural eyes are dark brown.
Yep.
and they had to match her with Jodie Foster's character. Not the best match, but they did what they could. And David Morse plays the dad. The mom died at childbirth. That whole story. She's very interested in both sightseeing and looking at the stars because of her dad, and CBR radio, which actually does correlate with the SETI program, which is both looking at the sky but using radio telescopes instead of actual telescopes.
Okay, so that was a CBR. I thought it was a ham that she was using, but
no, it was a CBR.
Okay.
And of course, the first part of that, we'll call it a backstory. The first part of it before he dies actually ends where you just see that sort of her interests. And when she gets older, you actually magically teleported to Puerto Rico, where you see the young Dr. Arroway finally getting her first steps into the SETI program. And one of the things she kind of runs with is two people. One of them is her blind friend, her soon-to-be blind friend, or soon-to-be friend, the blind guy. What is his name? You don't know.
Yes, no, his name is Kent Clark.
Yes.
Which, wow.
In reverse is
and it's
Clark Kent.
But he's actually based off an actual astronomer who was blind.
Yes.
Yeah.
The name of him is Kent Culler. Culler. E-A-R. Culler. Or Collier.
Yeah.
Cullear. You can write it in chat. Whatever you want to call it.
He was renowned for being the only blind astronomer who is legally like from birth born blind. It was rumored that Galileo lost his sight later on in life, but
he was, and like I said, he was modeled after Kent Clark, the guy played by is it William
Fichtner? Yeah,
Finchner. He was a real guy, and he was really expert on picking up sounds as well because he was blind. His sound was enhanced, apparently. But I love it.
Which a good set of a payoff right off the bit too, because how his sense of hearing really plays integral roles throughout the entire film, and how he's the linchpin that solves a lot of this mystery throughout it. So it's great. Was it the only thing that's funny too is that it's also set up that she is always seen as this kind of outsider by, even when the first conversation he has with Kent, she mentions the fact that like she worked for Drumlin and Drumlin had some things to say about you.
Yeah, and Drumlin is sort of the thorn in her side.
Played by Tom Skerritt, who was an absolute asshole, almost as much as James Woods' Michael Kitts is at the end.
Yeah. Stories, rumors, allegedly.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that he leans into the Drumlin role. Now, he is a thorn in her side in Puerto Rico, and then when she moves to the VLA in New Mexico, he's a thorn in her side there, where he's in an oversight committee that doesn't want SETI to actually happen because it's not cost effective. But I put on this scene. This is her first meeting with Palmer Joss, where they kind of dig each other, but she doesn't know he's a priest without the cloth, which found
not at this point in time yet. But he also does give her the compass.
Yes, because he's eating a Cracker Jack, and he gets the Cracker Jack prize. And he now I remembered something very interesting about this moment is I remembered that when he gave her this, she gives it back at some point, and then he gives it to her in Japan. And I remember distinctly that he said is to find your way home. But that never happens.
No.
That never happens.
In fact, the first time she rebuffs him and tries to give it back, saying, "You're going to need this. It may save your life someday."
Yeah.
So.
I'm gonna hop, skip, and a jump, of course. But what I love it is
just the night that they have when they do have Drumlin come down, because this is a long movie, so we're gonna have to skip a lot.
Yeah.
They end up sleeping together. But the one important bit about that night before they do sleep together was Palmer mirroring her father's words back to them. Like,
yes,
wow, if the universe really is empty, we're all alone. That's a really big waste of space.
And that is a sentence that Carl Sagan
yep,
loved to say.
Yep.
He loved to say it. And he took it from somebody else, but he gave them credit. I know the guy, haven't written the guy. It's a guy from like the 1790s. It's like a Scottish astronomer, something like that. So Carl Sagan lifted it off another astronomer, but he really loved it, and he kept saying it because he was a big proponent of SETI and looking for life in other planets and getting to other planets and all that stuff. Right, or DOE? What? No. Corn Pop, I love you. Welcome to the show. I have no idea what you're talking about.
But
you're more than welcome to stay.
So we have the juxtaposition between her and Palmer, and then her father's death.
Yes.
And
yes. Put this on, I guess. You don't know actually what he died from, but there is that conversation of her and the
and Heron with minor cardiac infarction. Basically, he had a heart attack essentially.
Yeah, heart attack. Because he had a medicine for it, but you know.
Yeah, well, because it even pans in when she opens up the medicine cabinet. It was nitroglycerin tablets, which.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sort of talk with the priest is, to me, that sort of this is where she kind of lost her faith and went into science, basically.
Well, I was going to say,
explain the death or try to make sense of it all.
So you say, is Ellie in the spotlight? Losing her religion.
Why are you doing this to me? I know exactly where you went. Stop it.
Well, come on. Later, there's another REM. Because every single time, like, what's the frequency? I'm like, Kenneth.
So after we see that whole scene of her losing her father, we go back to Puerto Rico, and this is where, Kent comes in. Yeah, we're shut down. We need to find a different avenue of research. And she gets really pissed at Drumlin, but she gets scolded back.
So no, you don't realize that I'm doing you a favor.
Yeah, I'm doing
You're never going to get published doing this shit. Your career is going to be a laughing stock. So I'm giving you the opportunity to restart right now.
This is the most academia I have seen in a long while in a movie. What Drumlin said to Ellie at that specific point happens in every university all around the world. Dude, it's so academia, you have no idea. I have witnessed that talk in real life to a student that was doing work at where I work.
Yeah,
it is disgusting, but that's how academia works. If you're not published, you are nobody.
You don't mean shit.
You do not earn a spot here. Go away.
Yep.
That is insane, but that's all around the world. That's what happens. And it's disgusting. So it kind of forces Ellie to actually find a private investor, and she gets to S.R. Haddon, where she has this conversation and she gets rebuffed by, middle management. And because for the first time, she breaks the usual stuff, and she's really passionate and talks about why it's important to find other places and make contact and share information and maybe get off. She doesn't say it, but maybe get off the planet. That's where she catches Haddon's eye. Now, S.R. Haddon is modeled after a real life person. Do you know who that is?
You know,
This is 1997. Chat, please tell me, who is S.R. Haddon modeled after? Don't say Jeff Bezos and don't say Elon Musk.
No, the only one I can think of is Howard Hughes.
Not Howard Hughes. It's too late. He's too early. Someone current. If I would have said 1995.
Oh, current? Like Bill Gates?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, yeah. Okay.
Not Bill Gates. Bill Gates. But what if Bill Gates went crazy? Or Bill Gates.
Yeah. Or Bill Gates.
Or Bill Gates.
Yeah.
So yeah, the model was, what if Bill Gates, which he was the richest man on earth, he controlled everything because of Microsoft, controlled basically everything till this day. And what if he went completely off the reservoir? Or Bill Gates.
You mean reservation?
Off the whatever.
Yeah.
Off the reservation.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, English is his second language. Idioms are not exactly foolproof for meth.
Anyway, so Haddon actually says, I will give you the money, and they have not yet the meeting, but she gets the grant and he's willing to pay for it. So she gets to the VLA. She assembles a team. Kent Clark is a part of that team.
It's just her entire team that was from Puerto Rico.
No, they changed a few people. The guy with the who does the fishing in the pond, he was not in Puerto Rico.
That's true. No, you're right. But they did bring on fish, which was kind of the most important thing because they have the joke about fish.
Yeah. And she has moments. Now, I want to touch upon
first of several shots of her near the Grand Canyon, which
it's not the Grand Canyon. It's not the Grand Canyon. You know how I know it's not the Grand Canyon? You can see the bottom.
Yes, I know.
They said they had shoots in Arizona.
That's what
This is not the Grand Canyon. No.
Because that's what I assumed. Because everything led to the fact that it was like shot. Because they did have mostly shots in Arizona for most
Have
of
you
their
been to the
exterior
Grand
shots.
Canyon?
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
Outside,
me too.
like near
Not the Grand Canyon.
No, I know, but near in opening plateau
close.
spots. It's close.
There are canyons. If you pick up Google Maps, I don't know where this was specifically, but if you put on Google Maps, there are many fissures along the way on the New Mexico Arizona borderline, and where VLA is pretty far from the Arizona section of the Grand Canyon.
That's why, because I was going to bring that up, because it didn't make any sense why she's sitting out there multiple times unless she drove up to that spot because it gave her clarity in some way.
First of all, she did drive up to that spot, but this spot is you can find this spot somewhere, and yeah, it's not deep enough because you can see from where she's sitting. You can't technically see the bottom, and in this shot, I'll pull it up again. See the green patch? It's not deep enough.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware.
That's all. That's all I got to say about that. But then, of course, one day, and I'm moving forward, I want to get to the shot with the 3 lines.
I was going to say that the one thing too, just as an interlude, there's a bit where Drummond's going to take over the entire facility in 3 months unless they prove something, and then also there's a bit with CNN where Palmer is now getting famous for his now he's counsel to the president, which How the hell he got there makes no sense
Yeah,
whatsoever.
he is the spiritual advisor to Bill Clinton, of all people.
Well, where I'm just like, wow, because that worked out real well in the next year and a half, didn't it, bud?
Yeah, kind of worked out for you, bud.
Just saying. Hey, well, I say, well, he did say, to be fair, Joss, which again is so weird that his name.
His name is Palmer.
Yeah,
Joss.
but his last name is Joss, so that's why. But no, because he said, well, I was actually going to join the seminary, but I couldn't deal with the whole celibacy thing. Where I'm like, oh, so that's why you're Bill Clinton's advisor.
Exactly.
Ah.
No, Joss, not
No, well,
Juss.
it would be not just. It would be more like
not
Jesus
Jesus
there.
Christ.
Anyway,
so we get contact. It's real. They're checking like different intelligence airplanes, all that stuff. I'm gonna move forward a little bit, and of course, once you hit pay dirt, well, the government steps in. When the government steps in, it's the Pete Hegseth of the time. It's the DOD basically,
yes.
Department of Defense guy, which is
because Kitts is the head of the Security Council,
and Drumlin has become, because he's a maniacal political science guy, he's like the special advisor to the president in terms of science. That's how he positioned himself. And to be fair, the guy on the side, he's supposed to be a mathematician. He's Indian, kind of fits, but we'll put that aside.
All I gotta say is outrageous mustache. It's fantastic.
Yes, dude, it's legit. It's legit. But this is where we kind of see where Drumlin steps on Ellie's
toes. Well, and also this is where
time.
Kent comes in and he goes, no, wait, listen to it, because he hears the harmonic frequency underneath, and it's the TV signal, and that's where they get the Olympic speech.
This is the safest. I will put.
Yeah, I would say yeah, because any shot of that would be like, well, you're in trouble now.
Well,
so.
We've seen Indiana Jones and all that stuff. And we haven't really covered Indiana Jones, but we'll put that aside.
Well, no, because we did in
Did we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Did we do
June,
Raiders?
June a couple of years ago. Yeah.
I don't even remember.
That, and before that we did American History X, which we did.
Well,
there was the opening, the big old shot with Edward Norton
in the intro
because it has to be. I mean, it's the most prolific shot.
Yeah, it's the most iconic shot. It has to be. I had to put it in. Anyway, so the signal is supposed to be coming from somewhere, but it shows you something that went out in space. The reasoning is it's the first satellite broadcast because it's the National Socialists that were trying to be supreme about everything. So why not
trying to prove that the concept of the Übermensch actually exists, but no.
And of course, because it's such a big revelation, you can't really hide it. The reason why you can't hide it is because they were tracking it, and because of the movement of the Earth, Ellie contacted Australia, and of course she got flamed for it, which Drumlin kind of came to her rescue and said, well, she had to, otherwise we would have lost
otherwise
it.
we would have lost it, because obviously, like, we lose the site as the Earth rotates. I mean, it's gonna.
Keats is like, why did you share it with other nations, even though there are our allies? We have to, like, as a defense guy, we have to know about this. That got smoothed out with Drumlin, and that's probably the only time where I would say, well, Drumlin, you did the right thing here.
Yeah, the only other time that he does say something that's even kind of nice is the faith bit later when, yeah.
Well, I think that was shitty too, but never mind.
Not faith, the fair bit. Like
the
if
fair.
the world was fair. Yeah, where it's like, Yeah, because you're a fucking prick.
And Ellie was ready to go on the podium right after the president comes out and give some sort of an explanation. But of course, Drumlin
was already
himself.
Was technically the scientific liaison for the president, so obviously he's the one who's going to give the speech. And also, to be fair, Ellie is not so good at giving speeches.
Not really. Corn Pop, please. I don't mind you talking. Don't spam, okay? Please. Yeah. I'm not blocking you. I'm not muting you, but please, if you don't mind.
But so we have
no
the
muting. No spamming, please.
But we have the speech about the quote unquote Clinton speech, and then also Clinton's shots in later that are superimposed, which I thought Zemeckis did a really good job with this.
Yeah, the thing about that speech, I have it in my notes, so I was waiting for this moment. The thing about the speech is it's a real speech about going to Mars. And when Zemeckis, and this is the point in the production where Zemeckis was looking for a president, Sidney Poitier and all that stuff. He heard that speech and he's like, oh, this is just perfect. He literally had almost the same speech on the script.
Yep.
And he's like, well, Forrest Gump was done for a reason. Let me do another Forrest Gump.
Flip it.
And
yeah.
Spliced him in.
And to be fair, this one is not as jarring.
No.
Yeah.
But there is a moment where they're sitting down at the desk later on in the movie, and Clinton is spliced into that shot.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. It's a pretty good splice.
Yes.
It's a pretty good splice with Drumlin and Keats in there, and I think Ellie was there too, but I don't remember.
Yes, and also
Again,
Rachel
my memory is a
Constantine,
bit shot.
Angela Bassett's character, was also in that shot too. Yeah.
I love her because she's like down and dirty, and
she is the Condoleezza Rice we needed in the 2000 2008 era. Like,
and she's the best in sort of being the president without being the president, because she's the Secretary of the House or Secretary of Staff
of the Interior, I think,
something like that. But what she does is she's the sort of voice of reason in the room, where she keeps Keats at bay when it comes to Ellie. But when she talks to Ellie, she's like, listen, we are doing this in a specific way. This is the American people. This is the entire world. You can't go off the rail and talk to like the media like you do, because we do stuff in a certain way. So she doesn't play favorites with Ellie. So she lays down the law when it comes to, okay, Ellie, we understand that it's your discovery, but understand how we do things here in the White House, kind of a thing. So don't be mad. You're still a part of this. You can easily be not a part of this. So we get to this point where Kent, the thing is, they got the Hitler shot, the Nazi shot, and they had static. And Kent kind of figures out, no, the static is actually loads and loads and loads of information, but it's layered one on top of the other. So it basically sounds like static. They figure out how to get the pages, but now it looks like schematics in a language that they don't understand. And of course, now this is where S.R. Haddon comes into play. I'm going to skip all the CNN bullshit, but I will say this. When it gets published that there are schematics and there's a signal and everything, of course, all the yahoos, all the UFO yahoos go out to the pasture and enjoy themselves. Now, you would think that this lot was, extras, right? And they basically were extras, but all of them were real UFO nut bars. And everyone in the with a costume, it's a costume that they made.
Yep.
In their house.
Yep.
Which I found very hilarious.
Including the Elvis impersonator.
Including the Elvis impersonator.
Yeah.
The only unreal person there is Gary Busey's son.
And Jake Busey is Joseph, who's the which is so odd too, because it's very misleading how Joseph at first, it sounds as though he's kind of a proponent of it, where he's saying that, wow, well, if anyone should go, it shouldn't be scientists, because you don't want scientists speaking to God, as if he believes that it's God who is sending them the message. So then why would he blow it up? So that's very mixed messages there.
And another thing that didn't quite fit is devout Christians do not commit suicide.
Yeah.
Not in that specific way. They would take a gun and shoot everybody and get shot in return, which is not really a suicide, but you're setting yourself to be shot. I get it. It's sort of a way around it, but not with a bomb. Not really. So that really didn't fit. What they wanted to do is portray super religious zealotry without going into the whole Muslim Christian thing.
Yes, very much. Well, they didn't want to, first and foremost, put it on anyone who wasn't a Christian, because Christianity is the most prevalent religion in the United States, so it wouldn't really make much sense for... Well, it would make sense for any religious fundamentalist, regardless of their religion, in order to bomb it, because they think that they were defying God's will. But no, for a Christian in America, because they were in America, to do it, that makes a lot more sense.
I'm just saying it didn't quite fit with what I know of, like, even like if zealots,
well, like even
David
even
Koresh
Evan
zealots
Christians, they're not that way. Yeah. Well, no, Paul, you're kind of right there with the Oklahoma City bombings, but
I kind of agree. There's a difference between putting a bomb or a pipe bomb in an abortion clinic than to actually wear a pipe bomb and click on a button to explode yourself.
Because what you're doing is you're committing a mortal sin. So what you're doing is you're condemning your soul. So like it would be juxtaposed to what their entire ideology would be. So it's like,
it's a very fine line, but a very clear line when it comes to Christianity, especially how I know it. But
yeah,
whoever watches up to this moment, in the comment section down below, later on in the replay, you want to educate me? You want to educate all my feelings with any opinion that you want? You're more than welcome. Yeah. I accept any explanation. To me, it's sort of a plotline hole that they had to fill, so they had to use a Christian zealot, especially because it kind of fits with sort of like Ellie is looking at the guy coming into VLA, and then she goes into this party, and there he is. Now he's bombing the other stuff. It's a bit of a escalation thing. That's all I'm saying. All right, we'll put that aside. What the hell happened? What did you do? Oh, Paul, did you block Corn Pop? Don't do that. Did he say something really awful? Corn Pop. Sorry. It said I did it. Well, that's a first. I didn't do nothing. Let me get this. One Punch Man. Hale, you are right. Christian would never kill themselves. Not in that particular way. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Not in that particular way. Yeah. Okay. let's move forward. I don't know what happened with Corn Pop. Corn Pop, I'm really sorry. I don't know why it got deleted. Well, your messages got deleted anyway. And it wasn't Paul, because Paul has instructions for me to never, ever ban anybody else. I'm the only one who's actually banning people if I need to. And then usually it's like Chinese bots. And I haven't seen those in about, 2 years now?
Bit of it.
Anyway, on to the show. Let's move on. We've got a lot of movies to cover. So, S.R. Haddon calls it. And it's like, oh, I'm going to give you the solution. And this is the first time we kind of see John Hurt's character. And he doesn't outright say to Ellie that he's about to die, but he finish up the conversation with it.
Yes.
And it dawns on her. Clever girl, thank you. And then, of course, she's the one presenting the present. This is the one where they spliced in Clinton with the big table.
Mm-hmm.
And she's doing this. And, of course, as soon as she's done, she's like out of the room. They kind of toss her out of the room and say, well, there's...
well, thank you for your discovery and basically doing all of the work for us. So you can kick rocks.
Yeah, and go away. And then everybody kind of disperses. And she's like, wait a minute, I'm invited to a party. And she's like, can you recommend me a place to get a
this
dress?
was kind of like an endearing moment too.
I thought so too.
Because we're showing that like at heart she still has feelings for Palmer, even though she doesn't want to admit it. So she's like, where can I find a
Yeah, because this is the moment where they sort of reunite, and she finds out that he's the advisor. And they have that conversation outside. I want to get to
because they do talk about his book and everything, and then also she brings up Occam's razor.
Yes,
yeah,
that's the point where they bring in Occam's razor.
And the typical kind of religious or theological rebuttal is essentially like, well, can you prove your emotions? Can you prove how you feel? So it's like, you loved your father, right? Can you prove it?
Yeah, that's where I got the idea of religion versus religion. That talk in that balcony was like, oh, I remember this. This is what I know even from the past. It was like, okay, this is Palmer's way of saying, look, I understand that you're coming to this from a scientific point of view, but you have to understand that a lot of what you're trying to do is also based on faith. Not on faith of what I believe, but on basis of what you believe in. And believing in something is a faith. So it kind of pits science versus religion as religion versus religion. Just a different kind. And I found that very interesting because Zemeckis doesn't point you into a specific direction. And remember, he worked with Carl Sagan on this. And Carl Sagan was ambivalent in terms of, I'm not gonna force you to choose the one side or the other. I'm just giving you the two options. And I found that interesting because if you're on, let's say, if you're on the faith side of things, and it doesn't really necessarily mean Christian, but believing in God and trying to make sense of the world in terms of the belief in God, you can look at this movie and say, oh, this proves it. And if you're coming from the science part, you're like, oh, this proves it. This proves it. That sort of thing. You were in a timeout? Sorry, Corn Pop. Wasn't me. I don't know how that happened, but it wasn't me. Oh, my feelings put you in a pot? Oh, he's not an admin. He's not an admin on the channel, but whatever. So the pivotal point is S.R. Haddon's little minions kind of leaked it into CNN. And this is the sort of not rubber stamp, but the sort of stamp of, yeah, this is not them trying to get us to build a machine to blow ourselves up. because that was the whole point of Keats. This is a machine to communicate with us because there's a man in the middle of it. And this is where.
So, Sander, are you saying
machine
you believe
construction montage thing comes into play?
Yes. Say just as an aside, Sander. So, do you believe in cheese's crust?
Oh. But the whole building of the machine puts a lot of people into who's going to go into the machine. Drumlin resigns because otherwise he can't get picked. And Ellie's like, that motherfucker is going to beat me again. And Joss tells Ellie, I can't see you anymore because I'm on the committee that picks people to go.
Yep.
And this is where he asks her, to me, the more important question.
Oh, well, also, just as a side too, this is where Drumlin becomes the absolute asshole because initially he's supposed to be on the committee, but he resigns from the committee because he wants to go.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah. I just want to just reiterate that point though, because it's very, very important how much of an asshole Drumlin is.
You are completely correct. But this is before the congressional hearing.
Yes.
Where I thought this conversation was more important than the congressional hearing conversation because Palmer essentially says, I don't want you to go. I like you or love you without actually saying it.
Yes.
Because he tells her, well, if you're going to go away, everybody that you know is going to die. Kind of subtly saying,
like, if you go away, I'm not going to be here. So,
and that was to me the more important thing is like, oh, he understands that she doesn't value their friendship more than she wants to actually be on that machine and go to Vegas.
Well, friendship and also romantic interest. I think like it would have been more like childlike if you would on that facsimile they put underneath there. Like, do you like me? Check yes or no.
Yes. And to me, that conversation led him to ask her the question because he knew from that balcony conversation, he knew where her allegiance stands because she cannot say she believes in God because she believes in the God of the other religion, which is science. That's where I put the connection for me in my brain. You do yours. And I love it that you can do different connections with it. I do. And of course, the committee where she's forced to say she doesn't believe in God. And subsequently, he's visiting her at her hotel room and they both hear Drumlin.
Well, it's also Drumlin being like such an asshole, being like, well, I don't in good faith can't recommend anyone who doesn't believe in some sort of higher power, where it's like, you are such an asshole.
Yeah, he's a douchebag. So that shot, like I mentioned at the start, that whole sequence where there's exteriors, that's Cape Canaveral in Florida. Yep. Very short shoot, apparently.
Side note, great place to go visit if you're ever down there.
I wish. Yeah. That whole place, that's a real place where they actually have the stands since like the 60s.
Yeah, you can go down there and visit. Like I went there when I was in the early 90s when I was a kid.
Now, this is a complete fabrication.
Obviously.
The people there is a composite.
Yeah.
From one of the Cape Canaveral launches.
Yes.
The other stuff.
You know how you can tell?
The blatant CGI that it has.
The blatant CGI and also the cars.
Oh, the cars. Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Pay attention.
That's right. That's right. So we're running the machine, and of course, there's.
Sorry. Just
good.
Quick interlude. There was the whole bit too, where there was the mixing between of certain countries dropping out due to getting quote unquote contract stuff. It's set up and payoff for later.
Yeah, it's basically the Japanese contractors that are coming to talk to the president and they're not happy and they're dropping out. all that stuff. There's a lot of like politics and interlude stuff with the whole story that we don't really have time to get into, but it's very much mixed. There's minority leader, which is basically a Newt Gingrich substitute, which is Rob Lowe's character.
Yeah, the head of the conservative part,
a very devout Christian.
Which his name is Richard Rant, which is
Richard Rant.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, chef's
perfect.
Kiss. Yeah.
And his rhetoric too, as he speaks, it's like, yep, it's exactly what you would say. Yep.
Yeah, and so this shot where it's basically Jake Busey explodes himself, taking Drumlin and everybody else, and taking out the machine.
And they took out the poor robot too.
Yeah. Now, I have just
one thing that I found really funny is during the entire bit where they're trying to rev up the machine, as they're going on, as Drumlin's talking, people in the control room are giving Drumlin shit. Like, this guy is just chewing fucking scenery. Like, he knows he's on camera, right?
Yeah. I think they mentioned it was like, ooh, I know he's looking for publicity or something. Yeah, like a slight.
I think one of the guys is like, back in where I am, they call that an overbaked ham.
Yeah. And it's the control guys doing the joking.
Yeah, because they're like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, fuck this guy. So Ellie's distraught. She knows her chance is basically blown, because even if Dremlin would have said, okay, just take her, it wouldn't happen because the machine is completely destroyed.
It's gone, yeah.
Which comes to my favorite moment of this movie, a moment that me and Mrs. Meth quote every single time when it comes to any bureaucracy that involves the government. Why build one when you can build two for twice the price?
It's fucking great. It's fucking great.
NASA. Oh, dude, and this is why I mentioned Doge last week, because I said I'm not going to go into any politics, but the Doge thing came in right at this specific moment. And why? Because of what this scene is her getting a phone from Haddon and telling her, look, remember that Japanese contractors? Yeah, there's a reason why we staged that whole thing, because we wanted one machine out of sight, out of mind, out of the media, until we're ready to actually unveil everything.
And also the great thing is, we also still want American. Do you want to go for a ride?
Yeah, I want to go for a ride. And he goes in the camera and he's like being really creepy.
It's great. That John Hurt it's great. It's great.
And this is where we're gonna do a stop, because the whole next part of the movie is basically her travel. Yeah. So we're gonna put a pin in that. Move windows around. There we go. Not this window. This window. All right. And we will play our second game of the night. You know it, you love it, or if you don't know it, welcome.
Round one, fight.
This is Screen Fighter, where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good or both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with their significant other. Two movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? And we've got another McConaughey. It is Harry and the Hendersons or Amistad, another 1997 movie.
Now,
Chat participation is most welcome. Vote for the movie you like. Whether you're on YouTube, X, or Rumble, you're all free to put in your comments.
Now, am I wrong? Obviously they beat Paul. John Larroquette was in Harry and the Hendersons, right?
John Lithgow.
Lithgow, okay.
John Lithgow.
But Harry and Henderson, I love that. It's the story of the Bigfoot story, and then also they made a TV show after it too, which was still fun.
Which didn't have John Lithgow in it. I think it had.
No, because John Lithgow was still getting movie roles, but he was later in 30 Rock.
In
not 30 Rock, Third Rock from the Sun, which he was actually really great in.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember the name of the guy, but in the first X-Men movie, he was the guy who was from the government.
Was he the senator that
Magneto turned into a sludge of
water?
water?
Okay. He was a senator. Okay.
Yeah, he was the senator.
Oh, crap. I don't remember his name. I could see his face, but I can't remember his name.
He's the guy who did the Harry and the Henderson show. He was the dad, the John Lithgow part. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go with Harry and the Hendersons. The chat says Harry and the Hendersons too, because Amistad is a really good movie.
It's another one of those movies. It's a one and done. It's also a one and done where it's like you watch it and
you're like, I understand it's horrible. I'm not going to watch this again. So Harry and the Hendersons has a lot of rewatchability.
And like movies around the same time too, like Beethoven were like the same way.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. But like it's fucking rock and rolla.
That is so apropos.
It's so fucking rock and rolla. Rock and rolla is so fucking good.
It used to be the worst Hulk movie. No, it's not.
Yeah, now I don't know so much anymore.
We covered Rock and Rolla. Rock and Rolla is fantastic. Rock and Rolla is
fucking great.
It's so good.
It's so fun.
It needs to get more credit. If you haven't watched our coverage of it, go watch it. We had a blast.
At least just go watch the movie, because the movie just
watch the movie. Yeah, don't have to watch our show. Just watch the movie. It's just phenomenal. Oh, this is good.
Okay, this is a really good setup because
Black Widow or The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. The first one.
This is the first one, yeah.
Yes. It's basically what Sony tried to, first of all, hold on to the copyright.
Yes.
Because the MCU
because it was about to expire and they had to make a new property, otherwise they were going to lose the copyright. And
they would have lost it to the MCU.
Yeah.
So they made The Amazing Spider-Man. Black Widow is a movie with a lot of problems. A lot.
Well, first of all, it should have came out years beforehand because Endgame kind of ruined the entire concept of the Black Widow film.
Correct.
Which it could have been like a fun interspersed movie in between the final two Avengers films, but that would have worked perfectly. But no, they delayed it until afterward.
It could have been a great phase 2 or phase 3 intermediate movie, but it just got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick The Amazing Spider-Man. I really hated Black Widow.
Oh, I was actually going to go.
I really hated Black Widow.
Actually going to go Black Widow just because I like two characters that are in it. Because I think
the red guy. What's his name? Are you still there?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
I don't know the name. I hated the Rachel Weisz character. He's actually good, she was really awful.
Actually, two of the characters that I like, the Red Guardian, and they're actually two of the characters that I do like. They're actually going to be in the Thunderbolts.
In Thunderbolts, yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
I get it. I get it.
That's the only thing.
The movie is really awful.
The only thing is I cannot get behind. I think all of the Amazing Spider-Man films were just, again, we're trying to retain copyright. That's it. That's the only reason why they were made. And there's no fun in them. There's no joy in them.
The only payoff for them is actually the moment where Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saves the Zendaya MJ as a Uno reversal to the not saving Gwen Stacy
and
Emma Stone.
I would say that's the only good thing that the Amazing Spider-Man series did right was the death of Mary Jane in Amazing Spider-Man. Sorry, Gwen Stacy. Yeah, in Amazing Spider-Man. Was it 2?
Yes. There were only 2.
Yeah. There were only
Anyway,
2?
yeah,
Wow, it feels like there were like 4.
if those 2 movies was a setup to the one moment in No Way Home, it's a bit much. But it's still a setup and a payoff.
That's multi-millions of dollars for that. So yeah, you can go ahead. It's fine.
The crowd is like, why don't you just move on to the next?
Yeah, it's fine.
The next one. Twilight Zone, the movie,
which
or
we just
Mean Streets.
Now, have you seen Mean Streets?
Of course I have.
Okay, good.
It's not a good movie. It's an early movie. I don't like it.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's not bad. I just don't like it.
And I was just thinking about this the other day, buddy. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Twilight Zone. Only because they're. Oh, I mean, Mean Streets is great
I don't
too.
Like
I mean,
Twilight Zone.
I like them both.
Like it.
I like them both.
I don't like it. What does the chat say? Sanders says Mean Streets. I'm gonna go with Mean Streets.
That's fair.
I'm like I can.
We had fun
reviewing
that though, man.
We had fun covering it. I just don't like the movie. I like everything that is around it. Even the non-accident big shit production stuff. But
yeah, Sanders, that's very true. There weren't a whole bunch of terrible deaths.
No.
On that. Oh, come on. Can't we just be like Friday?
Easy.
That's easy.
That easy.
Yeah.
I don't care how much Cinderella is iconic. It's still
I don't give a
Cinderella.
shit. No, I'd watch Friday every day of the week. Oh boy.
Those were me.
Well, I was gonna say that those were 2 that we didn't want to talk about anyway because they're really they're both like one and done films. So
I have not seen It Conquered the World.
That's a really fun movie.
But sadly, I've seen Glass Onion. It took me a while.
Which Glass Onion is Glass Onion, I'm sorry to say, they lost it all after Knives Out.
I know. I love Knives Out. Even though it was Rian Johnson, which whatever he did with Star Wars was like inexcusable to me.
Yeah.
I loved Knives Out. I loved the entire story. It's a really well-written story. Glass Onion, though,
you saw it coming from a mile away. It was
stupid, and the thing is, it was so predictable. You're like, dude,
why did they need to hire somebody?
All right, last one: Crocodile Dundee 2 or War for the Planet of the Apes. I think that is the second one of the new trilogy.
That's the second one. Yes.
Yeah, it's the second one of the new trilogy. I'm not a big fan of Planet of the Apes at all. No. Crocodile Dundee 2 was a total cash grab.
Yes, it was.
Total crash grab. Personally, I would watch Crocodile Dundee again. I just don't like Planet of the Apes.
I would too. Even though you have to give it to obviously Andy Serkis is over there just acting his fucking ass off at everything. I mean, I give him the utmost credit, but still, it's just like, oh, it's bad.
Like I said, I can't even say it's a bad movie, but I just don't like any of them. Yeah. I just don't like the story, don't like the way it's presented. I just don't like it. It's Planet of the Apes as an IP is not my favorite of the IPs.
No, I like the
original
originals.
Sci-fi.
No, I'm just saying, I like the originals, especially the concept of them. But the reimagining, the first one was good. I like the first one because it was showing how the strain of that virus was mutating the apes to make them stronger, and also creating this plague this kind of like influenza that killed the majority of the human population. So it made it really made great sense. And I thought obviously an actor that I don't like very much, who is the lead actor in it, I thought he did a great job. I'm like, wow, I was very surprised.
Okay. Just a second. Okay. Now for something.
Oh wow, Paul, watch the Wahlberg version over Circus. That's surprising, because oh boy, that Wahlberg movie is a rough. Oh boy, I watched that one in the last 5 years. That's a terrible watch.
No comment. Now this was in one of my notes. NASA was infuriated. That they put in.
It's like we never gave them cyanide pills. We're not fucking secret agents over here.
Now, it kind of, I don't want to say escalated, but it kind of was like Jim Lovell, who was on the Apollo 13, said, I don't know where they came up with this idea of having a death pill, but we never got one, and I was on the worst mission ever.
Well, like we were at a certain point in time, we were certain we were going to die. The entire movie, Apollo 13, watch it sometime. It's a long watch, but it's like we're gonna die, right? Yeah, pretty much.
And another thing about this whole trip, before we actually get into the CGI bits and the entire trip, is her having
the metal
armor.
Harness. Yeah.
The armor is on purpose. They actually thought about like Joan of Arc. So a woman leading the charge and with plate armor, and like that was the idea. Why?
I don't know.
To me, it didn't make sense.
I did find it interesting, the fact that it was like humanity's hubris to include safety harnesses, and it was the first bit to fall apart in the ship because it wasn't supposed to be there in the first place.
Yeah,
which I thought that was a good touch. But one thing I did find funny is, did they not still want to run a fucking test run the first time?
I think they were in some sort of a hurry. That's why the third act, this last part of the third act,
it's
a lot of story plot holes are made in order to get to a point. I don't know why. I mean, I enjoyed the movie, and I enjoyed even the last bit. To me, I've seen it at least 10 times before in the past. I can see where the plot holes are, but to me, they didn't really affect my enjoyment of the movie.
That's fair.
And they got smoothed out.
I was just as an aside, Sander, that is kind of funny. It would have been a hell of a lot funnier if they had her out in like lamellar armor.
Yeah.
Instead of actually a cyanide pill, they give her a wakizashi to commit seppuku. just in case. Just in case.
So she goes into this capsule, who magically the seams evaporate, and nobody says nothing.
Which again, I think that would have been the first thing. Like, yeah, there were metal seams on this shit, and now it's just gone.
Now it's gone.
How did that happen?
Yeah, nobody says anything, even though she has the camera actually without any interference.
It's still working. Like
this.
Yeah, like, huh.
And then when the machine starts and it gets to build up some steam and some electromagnetism comes into play, or whatever you want to call it, plasma, it gets translucent, but it also interferes with their systems. And she starts to say,
they mentioned the fact that it's electromagnetic interference, it's EMIs. So yeah, that's all it is. And essentially, the giant pulsating thing, where even if you can say that, wow, if this Haddon guy made it, how the fuck could he make that happen?
I don't know.
That would be the big thing about the congressional hearing that we'll get to in a second. But yeah,
what I did find interesting is the fact that when she says, I'm okay to go, one of the interpretations, and this is something from an interview, somebody said that, maybe it's on the DVD commentary, Robert Zemeckis said that when Ellie says, I'm okay to go, she actually means she's ready to die.
Huh.
And I found that really dark.
Well, because that interpretation makes a lot more sense, because later she's more somber when she's saying it. and almost like a slight resignation in her voice, and it's almost like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready
But
to
when
go. But
because Kent saves the day, he's like, no, she's saying,
I can still hear her.
Into the
Yeah.
interference, I can hear her say she's okay to go.
Yeah.
And the mission director's like, okay, let's turn it off. Let's
Turn off
go.
the kill switch.
Yep. I couldn't.
It does look like
This is not only similar to, this looks I've seen so many SG-1 episodes. I've seen the entire series not long ago.
I was gonna say this and also Babylon 5.
No, Babylon 5 looks completely different. And by the way, way more cheap. Way more cheap.
I was gonna okay.
This entire wormhole sequence, just the wormhole itself, looks like they ripped it off SG-1. And I don't mean Stargate the movie. I mean SG-1 the
show. Yeah.
The show.
Was it Dean Morgan was the lead in that, right?
Yeah, Richard
MacGyver.
Dean Morgan. MacGyver. Yeah, dude. And parts of it was like, okay, I know where you were trying to do this. When they shot this, in order to do the morphing, she did the entire sequence 8 times, 8 different times. One of them was supposed to be happy, one fearful, one surprised, one of them indignation. I'm not even kidding. It says so in the notes. And she had to perform this 8 different times, not in terms of 8 different takes, but 8 different specific times in a full-on blue screen room with just the chair as a reference. All the rest of it is all CGI. Let's just say that's why she wasn't really liking the whole blue screen room
stuff. Yeah.
So I'm not sure she's a diva or not, but it is what it is. And there was
I just heard from other directors about her, especially a film that she did just a couple of years later that basically killed her career for a long time.
You mean Panic Room?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy?
Oh boy.
Me and the wife seen Panic Room this week.
It's a bad movie.
Not even Forrest Whitaker saves that movie.
It's fucking
awful.
awful.
Thought from that role that Kristen Stewart would become this good actress.
It's like I
did not watch Panic Room.
I was gonna say, like, she did the most emoting as a child.
Moving right along.
And we get by far the most unnerving and unsettling bit where I'm like, did they fuck up this CGI on purpose? Because it looks like they did.
No, it was intended. It was completely intended. This thing is disgusting.
Where it's supposed to be her like swapping back for the face, her swapping back to her child self, and then her present self.
That's Render Man working on that.
Yeah, it's just it didn't. I get the idea of it is her like going back to her childhood, and then it's also like the aliens reading her mind in order to manufacture her perfect reality, so they can actually have a conversation with her. Therefore, that's the reason why her father shows up as the facsimile, like they're basically their delegation.
I love the fact that she at some point kind of starts off with, "Oh, I found you. You were communicating with me," and then realizing, no. You're like reading my mind. Yeah. Why are you doing
Dad,
this?
Dad, wait, no, you're not my dad. You
this is
mind,
Pensacola. Yeah. That's why at the very beginning, there's that shot where she draws Pensacola, and he looks at it and is like, "What is this?" "Oh, it's Florida," because they reached Florida with the CB radio.
Yep.
It's a nice little setup and payoff of how they constructed this entire thing to communicate with her in order to, let's say, ease her mind or be more willing to talk because it's a place she knows. Essentially, she doesn't, but essentially she knows this place and she knows the guy she's talking to. But yet they are talking about stuff that is between vegans and earthlings.
Yes, but also, as just an aside, she's a scientist. I know she's not a microbiologist, but why would you take your gloves off and just start poking shit with your bare hand?
Oh, you would do it too. Shut up.
Why? No, but I'm not a scientist.
It's in every movie ever. Because the thing about scientists is they're all high and mighty.
They're all fucking idiots,
They're
apparently.
all high and mighty until the point where they remember they're human and they really want to touch stuff.
Yeah. Well,
I am dead serious from real life.
That's fair.
I had experiences. Vegans, yes, vegans and earthlings. Earthlings eat meat. And vegans, I don't know what they eat.
You were vegan, now you will be gone.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a couple weeks.
I know. Okay, so the whole point is he shows her, it's the symbolization that I love, that he picks up the sands on the beach and there's stars in the sand, but it's kind of like there's so many galaxies and so many planets in the world. It's like the grains of sand on the beach analogy. It's an analogy that actually comes from Carl Sagan. It's one of his favorite things to say. I love that they managed to put it in the movie and not specifically discussing that. Right? He just shows her the thing, it glows, and she's like, whoa. Does like the Keanu whoa.
Well, but it's also like they're talking about the fact that there's the explanation that it's clearly stated for the audience, if you don't get the symbolism, that there are many other civilizations. In fact, like they don't even know where the technology to build this machine came from. And they got it from, they don't even know when they got it, but they've got it.
It's so crazy because this is exactly like SG-1, where when they meet let's say the dominant power, it's basically the Goa'uld. They're the enemy, but they meet the big power. And even the big power, the most dominant power that they meet, they use the Stargate, but they've never built the Stargate.
So was that like the Egyptian?
I kind of know how it works. And Sanders says it in the chat. It kind of is like the Stargate, where the original builders have already gone past beyond the stars. By the way, that's also a theme in Babylon 5 too, where
actually
there are higher powers out
also
there.
just for another sake of reference, for those who have played the Mass Effect series, it's like the Prometheans. Like
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The ones that build the gates have already gone past beyond the rim or past beyond the stars or whatever you want to call it. Went to the afterlife. And of course,
just a quick question, just for my own reference sake. So the ones in Star Trek SG-1, were they the same kind of Egyptian culture that was in the Star Trek film?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's all I need to know. Shoot.
It's yes. So the vegan sends her back after the conversation, and of course she wakes up and they tell her, well, the thing just fell through and nothing happened. And she's like, but no, I've been gone away. I've been through this wormhole. Prove it. And this is where the tables have turned on her. And this is why that balcony conversation was so important, to actually set this part out, where she had an experience that she cannot explain, and she believes wholeheartedly that it happened, but there's no proof. Essentially making her experience an
analogy
God
to faith.
revelation, a burning bush moment.
Well, because she mentioned before too, like if it were to be God, that it would be, a burning bush or something like that.
Yeah,
but also
I know. That's
as
the analogy.
We get some really fun asides with James Woods just being an ultimate heel James Woods as kids.
I love that so.
Like,
He's
he is
good in doing
just
those parts.
Such a fucking asshole, and it's fantastic.
And you love every second of it. Oh, James Woods, I love you.
It's so good. It's so good. And it's 18 hours of static, which is perfect because, and also, how did Ellie know it was 18 hours? Because she mentions like in her congressional testimony that it was 18 hours, but how could you keep track of time?
Yes, this is why, like I said, there are plot points where she wasn't supposed to know how much time has actually passed. She says, I think it's 18 hours or 15 hours or whatever it was. And that reveal comes in at the very end of the movie. But we'll because we're about to end up the thing. So she goes into this congressional hearing. She gets mocked, basically, and sort of, what's the word? Not disavowed, but sort of ridiculed that she's believing in something that is not really there. And basically shunned from ever discussing anything ever again. But
until they actually reveal all the information, where it's Rachel Constantine, played by Angela Bassett, who's like, yeah, have you checked the actual?
No. I want to get to something before that.
Okay. Yeah.
The one thing that happens before that is
Palmer.
Not only does she goes to Palmer, she has the realization that he was trying to tell her the whole time is, yes, I believe in something. You believe in something. It's all a matter of faith rather than what you can prove.
What you actually, it's also like it's not what you believe in as long as you believe in something.
And that's something from Dogma that I really love. I took a lesson to my own self because I'm a huge atheist.
Yep.
But there's something there. I don't know what it is. I think it's a very personal thing that you discuss off air, to be honest. But faith is more important to me than religion. Very much so.
Yeah.
What my personal faith is, I will keep to myself.
That's something we can discuss on another, maybe Meth After Dark, if we ever end up doing that.
Yeah. Well, in order to do that, I need to be a successful YouTuber, which will never ever happen.
So, yeah.
and I'm completely fine with it.
Yes.
All right. So, Angela Bassett, I love that woman so much.
She's fantastic.
As an actress, of course. Personally, I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
I love her as an actress. The face that Keats does when she confronts him is like,
I'm listening.
Yeah. It's like I want to show it because
did you notice the fact that
he just leans into the camera?
Yeah.
So she's like talking to him and he's like, and then he leans into the camera
further. Yeah.
Tell me more.
Great. But the whole bit is essentially, even though it was only a snippet and there was only static, there was 18 hours of recorded audio that was just static. So
so it recorded for 18 hours. Which kind of serves to prove that she undergo some sort of a movement of
something did happen. They can't prove what it was, but it wasn't just that literally half a second drop and that's it.
Bassett was very miffed. Wait, I'll pull it up. She didn't win for Wakanda Forever.
To be fair, I don't think she deserved to win an Oscar for that.
I don't think she deserved it too for that particular role. However, any actress would be miffed because she was kind of set up to actually win the Oscar with all the different rules that they have nowadays. But yeah, it's the freaking Oscars, dude. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's all about art, and it's all about a lot of votes from industry people
it's also
that
a lot of
definitely be bought.
Also, a lot of politicking, and it's a lot of backstage stuff that anyway,
we're not even aware of, and this is without Harvey Weinstein in the picture doing a lot of puppeteering with that stuff. it's not just the woke mind virus. It's a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with that. A lot of politics inside baseball, studio versus studio, producer versus producer. It's a lot of bullshit. It's a lot of bullshit. I mean, just go back in history, 1977. Is Star Wars a better movie than fucking Annie Hall? Fuck yeah. Do people know Star Wars more than they know Annie Hall through history?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. But Annie Hall won the Oscar the same year that Star Wars was nominated. So,
which is so odd too, because if it were to be, had there been a prequel that wasn't a prequel, but a movie prior to it, building up to Star Wars and how culturally relevant it became, it would have won hands down. There would have been no contest.
You're talking about the whole Lord of the Rings thing.
Yes.
Where Fellowship didn't win anything, and then Two Towers didn't win anything, and then when the third one came in, they just won everything.
Everything? Yeah. It's the build up where it's like, well, it's also that's again, it's all politicking and backhanding and smiley glad hands. Yeah, you know how that goes.
Oh,
so anyway, we got the conversation
the movie.
with them. Well, I was gonna say just the very positive ending of it was her back at the facility. They got a big grant in New Mexico, and she's talking to a whole bunch of kids, and she gets to use the line again, "An awful waste of space."
Yes, and
the last bit was I think the most touching bit was with her at a Fisher site. I won't call it the Grand Canyon again, but her picking up the sediment in her hands and looking at it, and then that the last line to Carl was like,
to Carl is the most, basically the most important part, because he was very involved with the production of the movie. Like I said, in terms of script, how the story goes, all that stuff. But he died a couple of weeks, 3 weeks before they finished shooting the movie. So he hasn't actually seen the entire movie before he died. He had some sort of a cancer. It's called MSD. It's not sarcoidosis, but whatever it is, it's a rare form of blood cancer, essentially, not leukemia. Something to do with undeveloped blood cells because of the cancer. That's what I read. And he was suffering because what the cancer did was actually make you very fatigued first, and then have trouble breathing because you can't get enough oxygen into the bloodstream because you don't have enough blood cells in order to carry it to the cells. It's all over the place. Anyway, so a great story, to be honest. Kind of falls apart at the end with a lot of plot holes and a lot of like squeezing a round peg into a square hole. But if you look past those plot holes and just sit around and enjoy the movie, it's not this epic masterpiece, but a great movie to raise a very important question about the relationship between science and religion, and their interaction between the two. And I love the fact that you don't get, and I mentioned this, you don't get a definitive answer. And you can look at it from two different directions, which actually broadens your audience. And this is what you want. You want your audience to be as broad as possible so they can enjoy the same movie for different reasons. I really enjoyed Jodie Foster in this. And I really enjoyed McConaughey in this because he does have that air of I'm a devout Christian kind of a thing, because he brings it from home.
Well, I was going to say, what I really enjoyed about this film is, first and foremost, the narrative of it actually flows on very effortlessly, even though there are some very extraneous scenes that could be very, very easily cut out, in which you know which ones. There's a lot of the stuff in Puerto Rico that could have been cut. There's a lot of stuff in between the Mexico scene that could have been cut. There's a lot of stuff that could have been cut between the CNN over broadcasting, over medialization hype that could have been cut, but overall, at 2 hours and 15 minutes, it still goes by pretty quick, which is very surprising.
Yeah, because I was looking down the barrel of a slog, and to me it kind of melted away. It really did melt away. Watched it once with my wife, and then once later on. Plus, I started to edit a few things for the review. I'm not sure it's going to come out on Monday, but I'm working on it. I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie. I know a lot of people would not like it for some reason or another. Maybe those plot holes I was talking about. And the third act, yes, there are some problems with it. But the entire thing about making two at the cost of double, it makes the movie the entire movie for me is for that line. It just makes it okay. I don't know why. Just me. I love it that John Hurt kind of looks like Jeff Bezos in this, which is very odd. And it fits because Bezos is also trying to get into space and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
But I really did love especially the Kent, his entire character being an homage to an actual astronomer.
Guy.
And he does so well. In fact, obviously he couldn't see the role, but he could hear his interpretation of himself, and he thought it was so well done. So
and the guy playing him actually does a good job with the blind thing, because sometimes you actually catch people who are supposed to be blind looking at stuff. But
he's always his eyesight is always in the distance, which is where it's supposed to be, because he can't see shit.
Yes, exactly. And so it's actually a pretty decent portrayal of a blind guy. And that's about it. I really enjoyed the movie. And if you sat around here and listened to us and haven't watched it in a while, please enjoy it. So I think I got it on Netflix, actually. So depending on your region, it could be on Netflix for you guys. If not, I think it's free on Tubi. I'm not sure. I don't have Tubi, so you guys, I watched it on Netflix and I enjoyed it. Anyway, I want to talk about where Sander Hammerschlag is with this comment. 2001 not winning an Oscar for the best movie, Kubrick winning for director Oscar at 68 is unbelievable, considering that the movie that did win that year. You're saying that he won the director for the movie, but the movie didn't win. It was supposed to
not winning an Oscar. He didn't win an Oscar.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's the Oscars. It's always been this political backstage backstabbing kind of a thing. It always was. It always was. Yeah. Tubi is free. Yes, One Punch Man, but I cannot have Tubi in my country because it's locked in terms of copyright. I can go on Tubi. I can see the different things, but I can't click them. It says not available in your country because it's IP blocked. And I don't use a VPN because it's stupid. I don't like using VPN. Anyway, we've been going long enough, just as long as the movie.
Almost.
So what we'll do now is we'll say thank you to everybody that was here today, especially the ones coming over from the Salty Nerd podcast, and it's probably your first time here. And if it's not, good. And if it is, also good. Stay tuned. Normally what Salty Nerd podcast does is they actually do a raid to one of their own cast members who started a different podcast, which is fine. It's okay. They're friends. No hurt here. I love Matt. Matt is a great guy. If you're not into politics, we're right after the Salty Nerd podcast. You don't have to redirect. Just jump in if you're into it. We try to stay off politics as much as humanly possible. It does slip in because we're human, but we don't judge. I try to keep this entire channel as much as politically free from both sides of the aisle, because it really is, to me, all about enjoying the art. I don't even care about what the actors do behind the scenes or the producers or whatever they want to talk about. I just look at the movies. And that's why I enjoy talking to my best friend here. So what we'll do is say goodbye, and we will redirect you to Pop Culture Minefield because they are covering the 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi.
Ooh, that's a
go
classic.
enjoy that. Enjoy that coverage over there. And remember, guys, hope is a good thing. Maybe even the best of things.
Next week.
Oh.
Next week.
Oh, next week.
Yeah.
Totally forgot.
It's a big
Next
one.
week-
It's a biggie. It's a biggie.
Next week is Back to the Future. The first Back to the Future. The Back to the Future. It's not only Robert Zemeckis' most well-known movie, maybe apart from Forrest Gump, but he was also actively writing it, directing it, producing it, all of it. That whole movie was a karma from all karmas. We'll talk about that next week. So remember,
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
yeah, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. We'll see you next.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.